Someone once said something wonderful. In this age of darkness, do not complain to God, for He has been responsible for feeding us all, not filling our treasure chests. This is a small story from ancient times. In a king's court, a Hindu priest arrived to perform a ritual. Once the ritual was over, the king asked him 3 questions. He said, "Priest, please answer these." The first question was, "What does God look like?" The second was, "How far can God see?" And the third was, "What does God do?" The priest replied, "I will need some time to think over these questions. Please give me some time." The king granted him 1 month to find the answers. The priest returned home, pondering deeply on the questions. However, he couldn't find the exact answers. As the month drew to a close, his worry grew. The priest had a learned and intelligent son who noticed his father's distress. "Father, what is troubling you?" he asked. The priest explained the king's questions and how he was expected to answer them. The son asked, "What were the questions?" The priest told him, "The king asked what God looks like, how far he sees, and what he does." The son smiled and said, "That's all. Don't worry, father. After the month is over, take me to the court. I will answer the king's questions." The priest was curious. "Tell me your answers now." But his son said, "No, come to the court with me and you'll hear them there." When the day arrived, both the priest and his son went to the king's court. The king asked, "Priest, are you ready with the answers?" The priest replied, "Your Majesty, I have brought my son. He is very wise and will give you the correct answers." The king then turned to the son and asked, "What does God look like?" The son replied, "Your Majesty, you are a great king. And yet when a guest comes to your court, you haven't offered him anything to drink or any refreshments. You have jumped straight to the questions." The king, feeling ashamed, immediately ordered a glass of milk. Once the milk arrived, the priest's son started stirring the milk with his finger, staring into it intently. The king asked, "What are you doing?" The son replied, "I am looking for butter in the milk." The king laughed and said, "You cannot find butter like that. First, the milk must be turned into curd and churned. Only then does butter appear." The son nodded. "Exactly, Your Majesty. Just like butter, God cannot be seen immediately. He resides in every living being, but you must meditate, follow the right path, and seek Him sincerely to experience His presence." The king was impressed and asked the second question, "How far can God see?" The son asked for a candle, which was promptly brought and lit. "Your Majesty, tell me, how far does this light go?" he asked. The king replied, "It spreads in all directions." The son said, "Just like this light, God's vision spreads everywhere. He sees everything and nothing escapes His attention." The king, pleased, asked the final question, "What does God do?" The son smiled and asked, "Are you asking as a king or as a disciple?" The king humbly replied, "As a disciple." The son, with a hint of humor, said, "Isn't it strange that the disciple is sitting on the throne while the teacher stands below?" The king immediately stood up, feeling embarrassed, and invited the priest's son to sit on the throne. The son obliged, and then said, "Now, what God does is clear. He can turn a pauper into a king, and a king into a pauper in a single moment. Just as I am now sitting on the throne, and you, the king, are standing before me." The king was awestruck by the wisdom of the young man and realized the profound truth. Moral of the story: God is present in everyone, sees everything, and ensures that our actions bear fruit. Rich or poor, powerful or humble, we are all equal in His eyes. Therefore, always strive to do good, as every action has its consequences.